or my advice for anybody is this: wherever the heck you got to start with that, whatever it is. But at least you started. That's what's important, right?
Welcome, everyone, listeners and viewers, to another episode of Yollab Central. Today, I have with me Ryan Penley. And Ryan, would you like to tell our listeners and viewers as to why they should be excited about our conversation today?
Yeah, man. I've been on a journey. Well, first of all, let me thank you for having me on and sharing your time, and of course the time of everybody watching. And so, that being said, I appreciate this opportunity to share a bit of my journey. It's been a journey founded in recovery, and I say this often that people success stories are cool, right?
Yeah.
Success stories are cool, and and they're fun and they're inspiring, but what people really like is the comeback story. And so that's what God gave me. That's what I have, and I feel that it's our responsibility to use our journeys and our challenges and our stories to help others that might be a few rungs on the ladder lower than us, if you will, right? And so here I am. I found some success in recovery with substance abuse specifically, right? And so, like a lot of people do, I started like getting some sober time under my belt. I started looking around and I started, thinking to myself and remembering, okay, there's people, a lot of people that are struggling. And maybe I'm like just a few steps ahead of them. And so then maybe I can help those people. And so maybe I could leave some breadcrumbs, on my particular journey. Not that my particular journey is a solution for everyone, but it can help. So
Yeah.
that's where it all started. I started getting some sobriety. I started getting some success in recovery. And then that being said, I wrote a book about it. I felt like that was
Yep.
the tool, right? The device, if you will, to get that message out in a cost effective and a way that you can reach masses, especially with our technology and things like that. And then of course social media, man. I really just started sharing, and
Yeah.
that's really what it's all about, just sharing. And so yeah, the success story is really it's my feather in my cap, and then also my testimony.
So, the story of recovery and then the success in trying to help people. Uh, what triggered this? Do you have any thing specific that you want to share about what brought you into this path to recovery? What was the trigger?
Okay, so are you saying like when did I feel like I needed to change something, or when did I start finding success? Like what would you prefer? You want to talk about the dark
Let's
times or what?
start. Let's start with what triggered this recovery path.
Right. Well, I have no shortage of rock bottom moments, man.
Mhm.
In my book, the Man Up, Sober Up is the name of that book, and so in that book, there's a myriad of circumstances that point
Right.
to the rock bottom. That was one thing that was, I suppose, a gift, if I want to call it that these days, is
Yeah.
that it was undeniable. There was no real like denial stage. It was
Yeah.
like, man, this is awful. So, it was tough for me to look around and not realize, okay, this is a
Yeah.
problem.
Mhm. And so, yeah, there's a lot of the need of acceptance about the situation itself, right? If you would agree or not, but we need to first accept that we are in a problem. And sometimes this whole thing about addiction is that no, I don't have an addiction. I'm not really dependent on this. Have you faced that, and how do you help people with trying to get into these mode of acceptance?
Right. So, and that's a tricky question, right? Because what perspective am I coming from? Am I a stranger? Am I speaking to them, on social media? Or am I speaking to them like they're my family? Both.
Both.
Very tricky to do, right? It's because every person's journey is completely unique. So
Yeah.
let's look at myself as an example. Well, let's call it like maybe 8 years ago. I've been sober now 6 years. Let's call me like 8, 9 years ago. Well, there was times that I was a little more stubborn about
Yeah.
assistance. I was a little bit more hard-headed. Well, actually, it would probably be a lot longer than 8 or 9 years ago. Let's go back like 20 years ago, a
Okay.
younger version of me, where I thought I had it together, right? At those
Yeah.
periods, right? They call it my early 20s because I
Mhm.
had money. I was checking off the boxes. I was going to school. And so I had these things that made me, in my own opinion, normal or
Yeah.
functioning. And so, yeah, to speak to somebody that very difficult to do, I would say it's nearly impossible. Until the internal switch clicks on, it's nearly impossible. Or here's another example. My mother, right now, my mother, she's actively in drug addiction and also alcoholism. She currently takes drugs. She currently drinks. And I know her and I know where she's at. Nearly impossible. To force somebody internally to have that desire to change, it's tough. So what do, right? To answer
Yeah.
your question, what do? You love from a distance with boundaries. And
Okay.
I know it's easier said than done.
Yes. So when it comes to social media, right? I was going through your introduction and profile. You mentioned that you have a very strong social media community. So just want to understand what binds these people. Is it that all? I'm not sure if everybody is looking for solutions, but people are coming onto that platform to your community seeking guidance. And do you interact with them on a daily basis? Do you do some courses, or how is it happening?
Okay, so I've got 230,000 followers, right? And as I have seen the social media landscape, as you progress from 1,000 to 10,000 to 20 to 50 to 100 to 150, uh, as it grows, clearly I cannot communicate with 200,000 people.
Yeah.
Like, and the landscape changes, and now recovery is very tricky. Specifically, why? Because there's some people that reach out to me, and it hurts. It hurts because there's nothing I can do. They need rehab. They need a hospital. They might need jail. They need something.
Yeah.
They're like literally holding on for dear life, and they're this close. I
Mhm.
cannot help them. I cannot help them from a distance. I cannot help them through messaging, right? And so there's that person, and
Yeah.
I worry about that person. But then there's other people that have some sobriety under their belt, and they just need guidance on what to do next. And then those people are the ideal person that I can communicate because I'm not
Yeah.
a doctor. I'm not a doctor, and I cannot help somebody in a rehab phase of their journey.
Yeah.
And then I would say a lot of the people, they just need some positivity. They just need some uplifting. Sometimes even a bit of humor. So there's a lot of there's a myriad of different posts that I have. Some
Yeah.
are very. I try to keep it short to try to lightly touch them up with some positive direction, if you will.
Mhm. So, what would you say that became the cause of this success that you gained with reaching out to so many people? What was probably what clicked with your audience, would you say?
Well, I would say this is it's just the consistency.
Mhm.
That's what it is. I hands down. If you want to get your message out, you've just got to put it out there. I promise you, it never happens as fast as you want it. I mean, you put it out there, you get crickets. Even podcasts. I started my podcast. It's like I feel like I'm in the crickets. I'm still in the crickets. It's like, is this thing on? Is anybody out there? And so when you start, right, and if you have a serious message that you are behind, that's what's important. And then you just put it out there. And then you will have some people, you'll have some pushback, you have some people that will hate on you. You'll have a handful of people that really are behind you, but you have to give it time to develop, and then you have to just keep doing it. That's the name of the game, hands down. And so if you have that, two things. If you have the persistence and then you have a message that you're behind, it will click, it will come together, it will get out there, the message will develop it. And that's the beauty and the blessing of the times that we're in, is because we're given all the gifts of the technology and the tools. And if we just keep using them, it works. It works.
Now, you mentioned persistence. Now, persistence is something that's probably in your journey of sobriety. There must have been instances or some events where you would say, okay, fine, I'll probably take a drink or something of that sort. Getting there, somebody is saying that, oh, it won't be too bad. It doesn't bother. How do you take that up? How do you deal with that? Or how do you suggest others to deal with that? Because that's
Yeah.
a real thing.
Yeah, it's really important to give yourself some grace, give yourself some room to
Mhm.
have those thoughts, and then to navigate them. And let's face it, like not everybody, and including myself, navigates all of the situations they're not always that easy. So well, I'll give you the most recent example. My wife went on a 2 week vacation, and there was a bottle of wine in the refrigerator. And before she left, I poured it out in the sink, and so she was concerned. She was like, "Well, why did you do that? Have you been thinking about drinking that?" And all these. And I said, "No, I've been in this long enough that I know I'm not foolish enough to allow that
Yeah.
bottle. I just poured it. Why allow it to give me that temptation?" So into now I'm pretty far along, 6 years into the journey, that I can see that coming. I can see
Yeah.
that conversation in my head coming, and it doesn't start off like that. It starts off. It's a fist fight. It is you're in the trenches in the beginning, and so it might take like, okay, you've got to go by a liquor store to get to work. Okay, go another way. So it takes you an extra 10 minutes to get to work. Go that other way. Take the extra steps to make yourself successful. And so, keeping the alcohol out of the house is a good step, but you have to set yourself up for success. So when those times come, you have the advantages, right? You've got to set yourself up like that, because those times will come where you won't feel as strong. And so then you've just got to start, like, move the chess pieces accordingly so that you could set yourself up that you don't fall backwards. And some people do, it happens.
Yeah, because I mean, that's a real situation that a lot of people face. I feel where they've tried to cut back, and then now there's somebody, yeah, urging them on. Yeah, it won't matter. One drink, one sip won't. But then again, people who have seen rock bottom will probably feel that, yeah, this is not the way to go. Talking
Right.
about rock bottom and your path to recovery, uh, do you have? I mean, do you share a few steps or some steps that you had taken and probably others could also take, or do you try to blend with the audience or something of that sort?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So here's the thing:
Mhm.
steps, right?
Yeah.
Small. you
Mhm.
you have to have humility
Mhm.
in a journey, depending on where you're at. For instance, when I first started to not drink, so the denial is out of the way. I know I have a problem, and when I first started to not drink, I was drinking a liter of vodka a day, a liter of vodka a day, and so biologically, you get to a point where your body requires it. Otherwise, it shuts down. It's a very sad place to be in. So this window of time, this humility and what I'm saying in these first steps, mine at that point was 15 minutes. I was like, I'm going to go 15 minutes without drinking. This is at work. We'll give you an example. Like, I had a bottle of vodka in my bag. I'm at work. I'm drinking, but I have to just get by. And I said to myself, it's like 10 o'clock. I'm like, I'm not going to touch that bottle until 10:15. I'm not going to touch it. And so here I find it's 10:12, and I'm itching to go drink this vodka. Somebody might think, "Oh, that's insane," but that window, the humility and the first steps had to be very small. And then even fast forward later into where I was sober, but I was really out of shape. Right, a very good place to start. I was like, "Well, I'm going to do 3 minutes of jumping jacks." Right, right, like in a day, not all at once,
Mhm.
like 20 seconds, 40 seconds, like throughout 24 hours. And so, like,
Right.
I had to start humility with humility. The steps that I had to take in the beginning, so small. And
Yeah.
so that no matter where you are, and this isn't just for recovery, this is everything. This is my opinion, that no matter which goal that you have, many times our ego doesn't want to know or realize how small you got to start. Or even social media. It's like you make a post, it's one sentence, and you're afraid to put it out there. And then you do. And then you don't get anything back. And you're like, oh my gosh. And then it's so humbling. But
Yeah.
that is what it is, man. It's a part of this journey. So you start small. So what is my recommendation or my advice for anybody? Is this wherever the heck you got to start with that, whatever it is. But at least you started. That's what's important, right? That's
Right.
the number one. That's the name of the game. You got to start. You got to take a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, all of these things add up, starting small, humility, persistence, consistency. I mean, be it life, be it social media. I mean, I'm seeing it with my podcast. I'm seeing it with social media because I've been trying to get consistent with it. And I don't care if I get views, I don't get views, but the show has to go out consistently because only then there will be a constant stream of, yeah, the audience knows something will be coming out. Even I don't know if people are looking forward to it or not, but yeah, at least I'm putting my foot out, right? And be it recovery, be it success. I had this conversation the other day as well, that yeah, these small steps add up, and it might look like an overnight success, but it's these small steps that the person has been taking for the whole time. Talking about success, with your community or your book, uh, how's it going? I mean, I have no clue what's happening, but then do you want to share something about the whole thing that's happening right now with you?
Well, with the book or with the social, I'll go with the social media because I feel like I feel like yeah, it really is that simple. Like
Mhm.
what you're doing is that simple. But sometimes simplicity at times can imply easy. Some people
Yeah,
think just because something is simple that
yeah,
it's easy, and that's very rarely the case. Because just putting a show out every week or biweekly or whatever your show is, monthly, whatever it is, it seems simple to just do it every week. But then once you find yourself a year into it or whatever it is, and then so life happens and it smacks you in the face, and then I've been there. My show, like I've had to skip a couple of weeks, and I'm like, and it hurts me, it pains me. But I think that that's the difference maker. If it does pain you to miss those process steps or process goals, then you have what it takes.
yeah,
Right. If it pains you to miss, whether people, like you had mentioned, whether people are listening and counting on it or not, internally, if you have that love for the process and you're doing it over and over again, and again, this is the gift of our times. In time, if you keep it up with social media, it will eventually get out there. Why? Because eventually you'll click with enough people. Because at first, the chances of it landing on the perfect 100 people very low. But as you put it out there and as you continue to produce shows, another person clicks, hey, I'll check this out. And then they watch it and then they tell another person. So this is what you've got to do. You've got to allow yourself grace, and then you've got to keep that persistence. But as far as my success with the social media and kind of where it's at, is that it will start to blow your mind. Because as you pointed out, like the overnight success, nobody sees like the watering of the bamboo plant for years, right? And then boom, it grows, and all of a sudden it launches 6 feet into the air. As I'm referencing this bamboo plant, but it's the same thing with social media.
yeah,
Like 10,000 turns into 50, turns into 100, and it's like you'll blink an eye. And looking back, I'm like, oh my God, like it's not even. I'll look now and I'll go up 2 or 3 thousand people, followers, just from a single post, and that seems mind blowing to myself that was starting the journey. Where, like you said, like we were talking about the crickets, right? Like, oh my gosh, is anybody listening? So the success, it does seem overnight, and the success, it is exponential, and that is the beauty of it, right? Because when you start to feel that, and you start to, it's like a hockey stick, right? It's like, and when it shoots up, man, it's a glorious adventure. It's a beautiful ride when you start like, oh my gosh, there's people that actually care. There's people that they like this stuff. And if it's a part of your committed journey, it's a message that you're sending from inside. The intrinsic value is there. There's very few things that are as rewarding if you're sending out a legitimate message from your heart, and there's people that are reciprocating. Now, okay, well, here's a little caveat, right? I want to add this. You're going to get some people that don't like it,
yeah,
right? So
yes,
don't be foolish enough. Don't be foolish enough to think that everybody's going to like your message that you're sending. So you've got to have a little resilience, right? So when somebody trashes you, be ready for that too, because that's coming. It comes with the success. You're going to have some people that just run you through the mud, and you're going to wonder. You're going to say to yourself, my God, that came from my heart. And we'll use this is a good example, my book, right? I've had people also shoot, oh, you're just trying to make money and sell your book. And I'm like, dude, if you ever wrote a book, you would know you don't make any money if you write a book. That's a warning to everybody. Like,
yeah,
a book is many things, but unless you're like, James Clear writing Atomic Habits and selling millions, like, you're not making any money.
yeah,
And so when you put a book out there and then you take the time to create it and write it, it's usually like it's a key that gets you into many rooms. It opens many doors. It gets you into a lot of spaces to have these types of conversations. So if you're using it for the right reasons, to get on the right stages, to share your story, you're on the right path. But if you so when people cast stones at me like, oh, you're just trying to make money, I'm like, dude, If you only knew like how much I spent on writing and publishing a book that I truly care about, right? And then so you've got to be ready for those comments. You've
Yeah.
got to be ready for those people because they're gonna show up, right?
Yeah, this particular caveat that you mentioned, I've heard this on a previous conversation again. And yeah, I mean, it's so relatable, right? You try to keep sending out a message, and then somebody who's having a bad day or who somebody just disagrees with whatever you're saying will post some trash on will give you a trashy comment and then try to demean you or something. But then you just don't care because you know they're coming from a different space, they have a different outlook to life. And I guess you've seen that too. I mean, you mentioned your book, but even in your community, do you have people who are saying, no, we're not addicts, we're not here sitting and drinking or pushing drugs into ourselves every day. We're just trying to have a little fun. Why you trying to push this down our throats?
Yeah, there's when people do push back, it's funny because you have so many that when you have a lot of people getting together, you just have some
Yeah,
people that just they're just trying to just be jerks. And I'll say this, like with like social media, the social media is pretty good at getting rid of a lot of those comments. I'm so surprised. Like if there's a comment that's just pure trash, like just cursing, they're just cursing and they
yeah,
just saying bad things. A lot of times, like Facebook specifically, they'll yank those comments. They just pull them out, which is such a blessing because then you don't have to see them or remove them yourself,
yeah.
which honestly is a big deal. But even when I do see some of the comments and I say they're ripping me to pieces, this really makes me feel good. Is like when I see that they have a lot of misspelled words
Mhm.
or like really bad grammar. I'm
Yeah,
like it takes away the power of their horrible comment. I'm like, well, you don't even know how to spell there right. You used the wrong there, and so therefore, who are you to like trash my message? And you can't even put together a sentence correctly. I'm like, so it's like I know that it sounds kind of corny, but like a lot of times if there's like a misspelled word, I'm like, well. You're an idiot anyway, so I'm not going to listen. And it makes me feel a little bit better. I'm like, oh, okay.
yeah, I've seen that happen a lot of times on different platforms. There, people will. I mean, if there's no logic in the particular comment, you will just say, "Yeah, there's no point getting in a conversation with you." But yeah, thanks for all this. I mean, your road to recovery was particularly. I mean, you've had your ups and downs, I guess. Uh, how many times have you had this pitfall? I mean, if you want to share, uh,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, it was we'll go with something that it's tough for me to quantify because I don't remember. That's the truth. Like I was in Florida, there's what you call a Baker Act, right? It's like it's an act where if you're a threat to yourself or others and you get reported, so
Mhm.
say you call the cops and you say, hey, this guy, I think he's going to kill himself, or I think, like something like that. Well, they what they do is they Baker Act you, and you're not arrested, but the cops come and then they detain you. They put you in a mental hospital, right? So that happened to me well over 10 times.
Oh,
Again, I don't quite remember. I
mhm.
suppose I could find the records or something, but anyways, it was many times.
Yeah.
It was many times. And so each time that I did that, they kind of locked you up for 72 hours. So I would have 72 hours of sobriety, so I couldn't use, I couldn't drink. And so here I am, I'm in there 72 hours. That happened, like I said, well over 12, I want to call it 12 to 15 times. And so every time that I did it, at first I just wanted to get out and get drunk and high again. That's all I wanted. And then the seventh and eighth time, the ninth time, I started thinking, okay, well, I'm going to use this 72 hours to launch pad myself into sobriety. I'm going to
Yeah.
use this time. And then I would get out and I would fight like hell to stay sober and I would fail. And I mean, so I guess the question was like how many times that has happened. Honestly, countless times. And this is why there's a phrase on my social media. It says, my rock bottom recovery, and right below that is a biblical reference. It says, fall down 7 times, get up 8. And so there's power in that. That it's not about how many times you fall down. Call it 80 times, and you get up the 81st time. But whatever time that you get up and you don't go back down, that's the difference maker. So you've got to just keep getting up. And so to answer your question, I have no idea. I have no idea how many times you want to call it a failure before it actually started to
Yes.
work.
I mean, that's what counts, right? The last time that you're getting up, making sure that you're not trying to fall down again. And that's where the whole recovery and success comes from. So thanks for joining in on this episode of Yollab Central, Ryan. Before we finish, do you have something, I mean, some contact details you want to share with people where people can connect with you or some platform?
Yeah, yeah. Go to my website, www.ryanpenley.org. So it's just my name, ryanpenley.org. Or if you're interested in a sobriety journey yourself, I've got a free 21-day challenge at myrockbottomrecovery.com. That's myrockbottomrecovery.com. You jump on there. It's videos of me walking through people, 21 days of videos and through your email and stuff. It's just a fitness slash sobriety journey. It's not too intense, but it can be something like that could launch pad somebody into a sober lifestyle or give them that extra support that they may need to kind of make a change in their life. So that's two places that you could reach out there.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for joining in on this episode of Your Life Central. I hope you help many more people getting on the journey of sobriety. And yeah, to the viewers and listeners who are listening and watching, if you like the video, do leave a comment if you relate to something, and then like the video, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. Thank you for joining in.